looks like we are.
All right, looks like we
working.
All right, looks like we working. All right, looks like.
All right, let's get that. Okay. Let's find that. Share. Full screen. Okay. I think we're good. Hydrating. Okay, we're going to start in about 18 seconds. Just making sure this is full screen. And we are going. All right. So welcome everybody to another Courage Pays Better Than Fear market review preview. And happy Sunday. I hope everybody had a great trading week and is excited about the week to come here in the markets. And I'm starting here on a Bitcoin chart. I actually just got done getting a little bit of a workout in. But I'm starting here because Bitcoin right now is up 2,200. And I try to keep an eye on what is happening in the crypto space, specifically Bitcoin over the weekend, just to see what potentially we could be looking at on Monday. And just because Bitcoin is up doesn't mean that we're going to have a big move tomorrow, but it is an indicator worth paying attention to. So just starting there to show you guys that we've had a decent size move here on Bitcoin. Let's see what happens if that holds and if it translates into any type of move higher in the markets this week. And so let's just set the context this week for the markets, what we're looking at. And really, it's going to start with data. And if you look at Tuesday here, again, I'm looking at the calendar feature on TradingView. You could see that we do have the core inflation rate CPI that is coming in Tuesday at 8:30. And you could see that the core inflation rate month over month and year over year is supposed to tick up slightly. So they're expecting it to be higher, and the inflation rate month over month and year over year, we're looking at the month over month to tick down a bit, while the year over year is going to just slightly go up. So those reports are going to move the market. So make sure you have them marked on your calendar, and really nothing much else following that other than some Fed speakers who will be commenting on that report. And then when we come over to Wednesday, again, nothing of significance here that I'm watching that will move the market. We do have a few Fed speakers. Again, they'll be commenting on CPI. And then we come over to Thursday, and we are going to get PPI, the Producer Price Index. Again, it is expected to be higher than what it was last month. So PPI month over month is expected to come in at 0.2 versus 0. And the core is expected to tick up as well. So that's going to move the markets as well. And you can see that's followed by a Fed speaker. So there'll be a commentary on that as well. And then Friday, we are going to get retail sales month over month, which is expected really to be in alignment with what it was last time. And then we're going to get Michigan consumer sentiment at 62.1, which is expected. So really, there's data out there that is going to move the markets. Market makers are waiting for that. The CPI and the PPI are the most significant. No true earnings to speak of that I'm really watching. Again, the biggest earnings report that we have left in August will be NVIDIA, and that's I want to say the 25th. We'll look at it on the chart here in a little bit to see. But let's jump into the charts. That sets the context, the framework for what we're looking at. So Tuesday, Thursday, we're getting those inflation reports. And if we come over to the SPX, if you remember, Friday, August 1st, we had that big sell-off, gap down, but we really just stair-stepped out of that. And a pattern that I talked about that has emerged here this August has been bearish, bullish, bearish, bullish, bearish, bullish. So tomorrow, if we're going to continue with that pattern, we should be bearish. However, when looking at these charts, it looks like to me that maybe we will get some type of gap up. It looks like we're stair stepping out of here. This is a little tiny pullback. If we measure this out from the all-time high down to the low of that wick, 3.37%. So not a huge dip. The bull stepped in, bought it up, not a ton of volume, not overbought on the RSI, but maybe this is getting ready to push once again. And really, if you look at from July 3rd through the 17th, it just moved sideways. Then it popped, got that pullback. So maybe we're getting ready for a little bit of consolidation around the highs and then a push. And, so this week's going to be fun. One of the things that we haven't had in quite some time is the announcement of trade deals. So be on the lookout for something like that to be announced this week, something with China, India, because that really could ramp things up. I do believe there's supposed to be talks between Ukraine and Russia this week, which we could see, move higher from. But to me, what if this pattern holds and we have a bearish day on Monday, then you know how to play Tuesday. And the fact that that's CPI, there could be some good opportunities there. But I think there's a chance we could get a gap up tomorrow. Again, just seeing how Bitcoin's moving here. Maybe there's some news that's going to hit that can pop things, but I'm liking how this chart looks and how it responded after that big gap down. If we come over to the Qs, it's going to look very similar, although we did make a new all-time high on Friday, very interestingly. But notice we're right at where we hit all-time highs before. So this gap down resoundingly pushed back up. The bulls bought it up, made a new all-time high slightly. And again, it looks poised. A lot of this was influenced by Apple's move. We'll look at that chart here in a little bit. But you have to like what we saw here on the Qs. Coming over to the Dow Jones Industrial, this upper trend line resistance is still intact, and you have to wonder if we're going to come back up and attack that this week. You could see that we did close below that 10-day exponential moving average and the 20. We have the point of control above us and a thick volume node on the VRVP. So there's quite a bit for this thing to move through in order to push higher. But this, along with IWM, is one of the only index to make an all-time high since everything else has. So you have to think that there's some opportunity here on the Dow Jones Industrial. You had some decent buying come in here for the first time in a few days. And then hopping over to the IWM, I did buy puts on this after we got that dip on August 1st, and they are losing, but I still have that hedge in place in case things want to go south. But we are holding on to that 10-day exponential moving average, a point of control, sitting on some thick volume nodes there on a VRVP with the 50 SMA on the weekly below us. And we also have the daily right here. So there is support there. And this thing could get running if people are excited and think that those rate cuts are going to impact these small businesses. And right now, the CME Fed Watch tool is pricing in a rate cut for September. I think the odds are at 89%. So that potentially could get IWM running. And again, I'm watching to see the Dow Jones Industrial and IWM hit all-time highs here and join the party with the Qs and the SPX. And just a few other things we'll look at here. Again, we already looked at Bitcoin at the open, but we could see the US dollar after popping a little bit, sold back down. If we take a look at the 10-year Treasury, we had that big, massive drop on August 1st, along with everything else. It pushed back up into the 10. I'm guessing this is going to get rejected here as well. And then if we take a look at the VIX, it is burning down once again. And let's see if we can come down and take out the most recent lows that we had and push equities higher. So when I'm looking at the broader markets, what I'm seeing here is that big dip on August 1st in alignment with weak seasonality of the month got bought right back up. and the bulls are right back there to create new all-time highs. And in fact, one was made on the Qs. So let's see if that happens on the SPX and if the Dow Jones Industrial and IWM get involved. Now, the last thing I want to look at before we get into individual tickers is here was last August. Here's that big drop on August 1st. We got down and then it got bought up. But this pattern of the push higher at that drop looks very similar to where we are now. All right. So I'm going to show you guys this. You can see here following from that drop, right? You can see how it's just like a stair step, right? And then if we come over to present day, very, very similar. Now, the candles are tighter to each other, but you have that slow, chunking, higher stair-stepping push. So let's see if we get some continuation. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that we do get a bit of a gap up tomorrow. So let me put this on here. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I'm going to say expect a gap up tomorrow. All right, and that's going to be August 11th. And that's just based on what I'm seeing here on the charts and what potentially can happen and how they are set up. I think there's momentum here. And typically these things kind of precede some type of news event. So whatever that's going to be. And then also we have that big data coming. So maybe we'll get a big push off of CPI. So we're going to see what happens there. All right. So now let's jump into some individual tickers. And if you have tickers you would like me to look at, go ahead and throw those in the chat and I will do that for you. Again, I already have my study done for tomorrow. I know what I'm going to be playing. So if there's something that you want me to comment on or give you feedback on, I'd be more than happy to do that. Otherwise, I'm just going to start going through some individual tickers once I get a little bit more hydration here. All right, so let's hop into it. Oh, Jackie, SMCI, you got it. All right, so here we go, SMCI. So I want to start here by looking at the weekly because this is such a massive candle that we saw come in here this week because of earnings. SMCI actually decreased their forward guidance in terms of what they were expecting, and market makers did not like that. So we had this big drop come in, and this was after the week before it tested that upper resistance trend line. So this is a very powerful area that we want to pay attention to. And anytime we get back up into that area, you just want to be cognizant that it could get rejected there. But in looking at this, you can see rejected right now, finding support there on the weekly 20 and the weekly 50. And it does have some support below it. You have the 100 on the daily, the 50 on the weekly, and the 200 on the daily. So there's a lot here that's going to prevent this from just falling off a cliff. So more than likely what we're probably going to get here is just a drop and just some sideways movement, something along those lines. But the report wasn't great. We did come down off the RSI, and this thing had made a decent move heading into earnings. It just the report wasn't great. And historically, SMCI has not been a big mover on earnings. It did have a pretty significant gap down here, but it's probably just going to move sideways, consolidate, because there is quite a bit of support here below it, just in terms of your moving averages and just looking at the VRVP. So this one is probably going to take a little bit of time to recover. Not like Trade Desk, which just got absolutely destroyed. This one should be back much more quickly than Trade Desk, but it's probably going to hang out down around those moving averages, consolidate for a bit before it gets started moving back up. So that's my take there on SMCI. Again, if you have tickers, just throw them in there. I do have ExxonMobil up here at the top of my list. Again, this one has another very strong upper resistance trend line here. And I have it down here for me to set up a bull put spread. Once we get down near this 200 on the weekly, it hasn't happened yet, but we're getting closer to that condition being met. And as soon as that happens, I am going to pull the trigger on that. So hopefully we can get a dump here tomorrow or this week sometimes, and then I'll execute that spread and try to capture some nice premium, because oil has been down for quite some time. It's due for a little bit of a response, a little bit of a push up. So I'm watching that, not for a day trade, not for a swing trade, but for a spread. So we'll see what happens there with ExxonMobil. So Boeing was a ticker that I had on my chart last week in terms of day trades, watching it. And I did day trade it a few times and made decent money off of it, not as good as I had hoped. And had I been a little bit more patient and not as conservative as I was, I could have made more. But this made a nice move and it rebounded strongly after earnings. So I do think we're going to get some continuation here. We do have some selling coming in off those upper wicks. You do have some volume nodes here on the VRVP, but this one could get going. Their CEO, Kelly Ortberg, is turning around this company. And I do think there could be some more opportunities here for Boeing. And once it can significantly clear that 100 SMA on the monthly, I actually have to move this up a little bit. Once it clears this, there's nothing above it, and it could really run. And really, when we're looking at this monthly chart since 2020, it's just been coiling. And so, new CEO here, right, and a guy who's really making some inroads for improving this company. I do think we could break above that and start pushing back up and challenging for all-time highs. So I will continue to day trade Boeing, hoping that I catch that big move. And then at that point, if it's a runner, I'll consider staying in it and holding it and trying to squeeze it for as much profit as I can. So I'm keeping Boeing at the top of my list here for this week. Roku is one. Again, another dipper on earnings, gap down, but it did get saved by that 50 SMA on the daily. Right now, it's sitting on the point of control in a thick volume node. And it does look, it's funky looking, but almost inverted head and shoulder-esque here, right? I know that's very, very funky, but that's just what stands out to me. And when I really zoom out here, again, you got to remember how far down we are on Roku. So, and the fact that it got saved there on that 50 daily, there's a chance that we could see this thing start to move. We're sitting right there on those volume nodes. You have a lot of support below it. I think Roku could get moving, and I do think that this is a target for acquisition at some point. And so I do think this could be a move or two. So I do have this at the top of my list to watch for day trades. I would like to see it get above that 50 first before taking a day trade on it, but I am going to keep an eye on Roku this week. Meta is another one. That big, massive gap up. Sold down there on August 1st, along with everything else, but then pushed back up, nearly hit a new all-time high. And then really we've just been consolidating. And we have this bullish harami, right? We have this bullish candle body closing inside of this bearish candle. Meta has been very strong. So you have pressure building. It's not giving up that gap up that it had. And if it could push, it could really get going. Again, I'm going to stick to that $1,000 call that I have on this thing by the end of the year. So I'm watching this one as well for some day trade opportunities, because I think once this thing gets going, it's not going to turn back, and it could hit $900 extremely fast. This is a big mover. So I am watching Meta. Trade Desk. This is look at that gap down. Woo! Talk about falling off a cliff. But what's even crazier, this is twice this year that it had a massive gap down. So we had this one back in February, right? From its close to close here, $40. So $40 gap down. And what did we get here? And this thing was looking strong, right? We were right there on that 200, but then we had another $34 gap down. To me, this looks like an exaggerated move. We're back down to where this bottomed out before. I'm not ready to take it long, but I will be watching for it to retest these lows from April 7th, 42. If it comes down there, I will be a buyer, and I'll add if it continues to go lower. But man, look at the RSI here, off a cliff. So definitely keep an eye on the trade desk. Apple finally getting going. That's a strong, strong candle. And this one has nothing above it. This one could push. And we'll see. The all-time high on this guy is right up there around 259, 260. If it could hit 250 by Friday, I will strongly consider closing the majority of the position that I have, just because I don't want to be greedy. And that's a hell of a move that we've had. And if it's moved that fast, that much green, I don't want to continue to hold it. So there's a chance I will trim the majority of it and maybe just hold like a small remainder position and then go from there. But that's a great move. I do think we're going to get continuation. So let's see here where we go. But man, Apple is just crushing. Look at this weekly candle. Bang, right? But notice the last big weekly candle we had here. This was off of the tariff pause. It pushed higher, but then it sold back down. So just again, I'm going to be cautious, but I'm happy with this move. It's good to see Apple participating along with some of the other laggards, and it's good to see that. Paul, you're good. You're not late, man. I'm not taking attendance, so you're good, brother. UNH, let's take a look at UNH. I did pick up a position here earlier than I expected that I would. You can see I have an alert set here at 188. That's me being cheap, trying to get in on this, and I will add to my position. Should it come down there, but I don't know if it will, because again, I did a class this week talking about catching a falling knife. I mean, this thing has just dropped so much. We could see this first gap down, that's $128, and then a slow bleed. And then you had another gap down here, right? $68. And then you had another gap down here, another $62. And then buyers finally came in. And so we really just were moving sideways, dropped. But what I like is we went from being oversold, it got bought back up, dropped down, got oversold again, and buyers stepped in here. So I'm watching to see if we get a little pop. Now, I probably won't stay in this one for too long, but if we can get back up to 315, 325, 350, that will be a heck of a profit. I'd be out. But I do like where we are here on UNH, and there has been speculation that Warren Buffett picked up a position on this with Berkshire Hathaway. If that's the case, then and that gets announced, which I think there has to be filing of new positions, I think within the next 7 days. I'll have to post something about that, but just keep an eye on UNH here over the next couple of weeks. Netflix, I pointed this out to my community members here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red weeks in a row. We finally got a green candle come in. Get ready for Netflix to start charging back up higher, which it typically does after getting a little bit of a rest. So good to see Netflix pushing. I actually bought back the sold puts that I had at $11.25 for a profit, and then sold more puts at $10.80. They're profitable. And then if this thing keeps going up, I'll close those out this week. I didn't mind owning shares, but I'm not going to, because unless something crazy happens, which it can, I don't think it's coming down there to 1080. AMD gap down on earnings, saved by that 20, push back up strong. Now we have upper resistance trend line coming into play right here. So I'm going to watch to see if we can bust out of that and push higher. My guess is it will, because the chip sector continues to be strong. And you guys know that I'm a terrible AMD trader, so I just kind of watch this from afar. I'll scalp it, but I don't really mess around with AMD, because it's just, I don't know. It's not meant for me to trade. Amazon. So Amazon had a massive gap down on earnings. You had buyers step in, push it back up, got rejected off the 10 here, but got above it on Thursday. And now we're sitting squeezed in between the 10 and the 20, right on that point of control, that thick volume node. This one may close the gap here. Let's mark this line. We're watching to see what happens if it gets up to 231. And if it continues to grind higher from here. And again, buyers have stepped in to buy up this dip, so there's no reason to think that they won't do that. CRCL is has almost filled its gap at 135.14. You had this gnarly double top here. These are double tops that I like, which are higher highs, lower highs. We broke below that neckline, came down, rejected off the 10. Let's see if we can hit this week. And then it will be interesting to see, after filling this gap, if this thing wants to push back up into the 180 range, or if it moves sideways. But that's been a great move to the downside if you were able to catch it on CRCL. And then just some of the other IPOs. So FIG, after its great push higher upon being announced up to 142.89, this thing has dropped, man, $65. So I'm sure there's some bag holders there. Been there before. I hope it comes back for you. And then Fly's the other one here. Where's Fly? I know it happened on my chart. Same thing. This thing popped, got up to 73.80 and dropped back down. Not as drastic of a move here. This thing should find some support and push back up, but not a great week for IPOs this week. Microsoft finally pulling back a little bit into the 10. I hope people continue to take profits here. Let's see if it could fill that gap down to 515.85 and then take that money and put it into Apple. I mean, I think that's just a great thing for you to do if you're taking my recommendation. So anybody out there who has profits to trim on Microsoft, cash them out and put them into Apple. Apple's a good place to store them. Roblox, this chart looks very similar to Microsoft. Gap up, new all-time high, dropped, consolidating on that 10. This thing could be getting ready to go again because it's just been so strong and there's so much momentum here. There's so much positive sentiment around, some of their recent games, Grow Garden and the brain rot. Does anybody out there have kids that they're into the brain rot stuff, the Italian brain rot, or still a brain rot? Like the cappuccino ballerina, all this nonsense. If so, comment down below. But it's crazy, the Roblox stuff. I'm making myself laugh here. Google is another laggard that decided to join the party here this week, along with Apple. And we are close to filling. We filled this gap here at 201.75. We do have another gap up here at 204.35. We got close to it. So I expect that to get filled. And more than likely, Google's going to hit an all-time high this week. The laggards are participating. So keep an eye on Google. There could be some good day trade opportunities. Again, if we get a gap up, this one could gap up very closely to that all-time high. So keep an eye on this one. And Paul, I know Google's your jam. So I hope that one pushes for you. Marathon Digital Holdings. This stock is just irritating. I don't trade it anymore because it's just such a slow mover. And anytime it offers a little bit of hope, it just gives it all back. I just look at it to see what it's doing. The only thing that I'll say is you do have that 50 creeping close to that 200. If it ever curls up and crosses through that, that's a golden cross. Maybe it'll get a push then, or maybe we have just a big crazy drive higher in the crypto space. But Mara has been disappointing. Visa, a few weeks ago, I talked about how I really liked what this chart was looking like. I think it was on this candle right here, and then it dropped down. We did push back up. I did close out my shares, and then it moved lower off of earnings, but it is finding some support here on the 200 daily EMA. What does this thing look like on the weekly? It's a hammerish looking candle. So I don't think the move here on Visa is done, but you just got to wait to get it set up. Now is not the time to take it long. Let it regain some bullish traction, and then there could be an opportunity. But this one did pull back a little bit. How big of a pullback from the all-time highs? Let's measure this out. Like 12.4%, so nothing crazy. MU, man, what a candle. This thing finally got going. You had a higher high, lower high, double top, dropped down, broke below the 50, retested it, came down, and then it's pushing back up. Let's see what's going to happen here with MU. If it's going to launch higher, this thing was on a tear, and then it got dropped on earnings. But that is a great candle to see here out of that, what used to be a resistance. So it is functioning a little bit as a support. We did break below it here, but a good move on MU. Spotify, after its dump, saved by the 100 on the daily, some consolidation, a gap up, drop back down, bounced again, and now it is back above that 50. Watch Spotify. Again, Spotify, Netflix tend to run together. Spotify was up 19 on Friday, Netflix 31. If they both get going, man, they can run. So hymns, I like hymns in the long term. Again, I think if you park some money here and you're patient with it and you sit on it for about a year, you could be looking at some really nice profits. I think this could be $100 stock in the next 6 to 8 months. It's been beat up a little bit here with what was some fraud claims from Eli Lilly, like false advertising with one of their products. I don't think that matters. I think that this one can move fast. It's shown that it's had these big, massive days. It gapped down here before on those fraud reports, found support on the 100, pushed back up, consolidated, drove higher, and then gap down on earnings. We had a sell-off, but you could see there's some price clustering in this area, this 51 to 49 area where we are right now. You do have the point of control. You have those thick volume nodes here. So this one could do something, but you would just have to be patient. I'd really like to see this thing come down into the 100. And I'm actually going to wait for that to happen. And I might take just a small position swing trade and just sit on it for a while and see what happens, because I do like hymns and it can run significantly if you're patient with it and give it time. NVIDIA, again, another new all-time high, just keeps pushing higher. Earnings coming up on the 27th. So I'm not doing anything with NVIDIA right now. I'm watching it. It's too extended for me to day trade it, to swing trade it. I'll wait for a pullback. I'd really like to see it come down and retest what was a strong resistance for a long period of time, but who knows when that's going to happen. So I'll just watch from afar and see what transpires there. Tesla, let's click on Tessie. This upper resistance trend line is in place. You did have a decently bullish day on Friday where we did get above that upper resistance trend line, but I just don't know, with all the negative sentiment around Tesla and the fact that Musk stopped work on his Dojo AI supercomputer, there really hasn't been anything positive. They need some type of catalyst to push this thing higher, whether it's some success with its robo-taxi or something with Optimus. And until it gets into a clear trend, I don't want to trade chop. And that's really all it's doing right now. It's compressing here in this, I guess we could call it a descending triangle. We're just coming up, it's just building that pressure, and more than likely, this type of pattern leads to a push down. So I'll wait till there's some confirmation of where it's headed, and then I'll try to day trade it. But for now, I'm not going to touch it. And then Coinbase, big dump on earnings, found some support to 50, dropped a little bit more. There was something I liked about this chart. I'm trying to remember what it was. What in the world was it? I don't remember. So I was looking at it today. I was like, there's something I liked here. What was it? There was something I liked on this chart. I don't know what it is now. I think just looking here, the big gap down, we do have this clustering of price action that took place from May into June before it started that run. So if it would come down to that 100, that would be a good bouncing spot, although that could create some type of a head and shoulders looking pattern. But you are getting a bit of a bullish crossover here with a 100 cutting up through that 200. So let's see if there's any carry on or follow through from there. That may have what I've been was looking at. And on the weekly, again, just a drop, finding support there on the 20. Let's see if that's going to be a bouncing spot for it. If this thing could get moving again, that's just a big gap down. So I'm waiting on this one again. I don't have a significant edge here. I think I would just want to see it come down to where you have all of this support, point of control, moving averages, volume nodes. This would be a good area for potentially trying it to take it higher. And then a couple more here. Again, if you guys have tickers, just go ahead and drop them below. Palantir is the Chris Carter of stocks. Retired Hall of Fame Minnesota Viking. All Chris Carter used to do is catch touchdowns. All that Palantir does is make new all-time high. So another new all-time high for Palantir. Nice gap up on earnings. Not a crazy one. But I say this every week. Congrats to the Palantir Bulls. Adobe, I'm still hunting this one. I've been so patient with this one, but I'm going to get it, guys. I am going to get this stock, and I'm going to do a video about it when it's done. So we have this trend line here, and I'm talking quietly like I'm hunting. So back in 2018, we had this low. We created the trend line. We came down. We hit it in 2022, and it looks like we're about to hit it again. And so if we can come down here and touch this trend line before earnings, I am going to set up a play out of the money call options, but we have to get here lower first. I'm going to put a circle here, and I'm going to type this in, and we're going to have this recorded on this video. If Adobe hits this trend line ahead of earnings, I will set up out of the money call play, and I'm going to rate hunting. All right, so I've been watching this one very closely. And again, do I think that Adobe's doing anything crazy, innovative with their company? No. Are they in trouble? Yes. What I'm looking for here is just a technical bounce from this price here. So I'm watching. If it gets there, I'm going to set it up. They're not going to be reporting for quite some time. That's not until September 10th. So let's see what happens with Adobe, but I do keep watching it. AAPL. So I had all these gaps marked out. I was like, all right, if it comes down and fills these gaps, I'll take a shot here. And it got close right around this area in June, but I never took it. And bang, look at this move. This thing is just going right now. So anybody who's an AAPL, good for you. I love to see people win, and I hope somebody's crushing it in this ticker. And then let's just take a look at a few more. What else do I want to look at here? SoundHound. Great response on the SoundHound video. That I was very disappointed at the quality of the charts and how they came out on the screen, but everybody showed up to watch that video. It was one of my most highly viewed videos. So thank you to all of you who watched that. And I had the bull case on earnings for SOUN 12.19, which it did hit and got rejected there. But then it just pushed through. Kind of a spinning top candle here, a little bit of indecision. Look at this volume, guys. If the broader markets push and there's bullish sentiment, this thing can move. So watch SoundHound for some continued momentum this week. And if those CPI and PPI reports come in cool, this thing can get going. So keep an eye on SoundHound. There could be some opportunity here, but a solid move. I was bearish on this one. I'm going to be dead honest. And I was expecting it to come down here. It didn't do that. So I was wrong on SoundHound. And let's just take a look at a few more. So BBAI, they are going to be reporting tomorrow. I don't know if that's before market open, but again, we have an upper resistance trend line here. We have pressure building. Again, being that they're in the AI military drone space, we could see some sympathy rub off from Palantir here. We could see this one move. It has been as high as $10 recently, and an all-time high on this guy is around 16. So keep an eye on this one. I wouldn't be surprised if this one pushes. You did see a nice little uptick in bullish volume there. So I'm interested to see what happens here with BBAI. I hope it rips for everybody out there. So Paula says, made you a sound believer. I don't know about that. I'm going to day trade it. I don't know if I'm a believer yet, but that's all right. When you're counting your bags and I'm sitting here saying, well, I don't know. You could be like, here you go, bro. Here's $5. Go get a Happy Meal. No, it's had a good move, man. I'm glad your position's running. So we got Avgo. Yes, we could take a look at Avgo. AVGO. Broadcom. All right, I haven't updated my lines here Give me a second to do this. I didn't really look at this one today. And I'll tell you why, because I typically don't, anything that's like too far extended, I won't even consider. And this thing has just had such a push. Quick story real fast. All right, I'm going to deviate for one minute here. Back in December, right here, I had a play over earnings out of the money call options that they were for 200 strike price. And I sold them so early and I missed out on this massive move the next day. I took profits and I could have kicked myself on that. So Broadcom always brings back bad memories of cutting too early. Anyway, I digress. I mean, Broadcom just, again, super strong. All the entire chip sector is pushing. They are pushing above all the moving averages. If we're looking here, you did get that little tiny retracement into the 20 on August 1st when everything pulled back. If we look at the weekly, it just looks super strong. Again, we're a little bit overbought on the RSI. If we look at the monthly, we just keep pushing back or pushing higher. But you would think that we got to get a little bit of a pullback. And just for me, in terms of risk reward, if I were in this position, I'd be trimming. I'd have a stop set to protect myself in the event of a pullback. But in terms of continued upside, I think there are better options out there. But if I'm in it, I'm feeling pretty good that there's probably a little bit more of a push higher. Who knows how much more? But man, it's just so strong, so strong. So hopefully you're in that. Hopefully you are in Broadcom right now, Sly, and you're crushing it here, because man, it's just been one heck of a move there on that ticker. And let's see here, what else do I want to take a look at? I don't know if there's anything else that was really. Was it UPS? Oh yeah. UPS, and the only reason I want to bring this one up, the dividend, they raised it to $1.64. That's a hell of a dividend. Hell of a dividend. So I just want to put that out there. If anybody wants to just sit on some shares, this thing is beat up quite a bit too. Let me go to the monthly. I mean, you're back at support from 2020. May not be a bad thing if you, in your long-term portfolio, just want to sit on some shares and collect that dividend. I mean, that's really nice. So I did want to share that one. I don't think there's anything else I want to point out. I'm just checking. I'm checking my list here one more time. Got so much stuff. Ever since I started doing the live streams, people give me tickers to look at, so I just put them on here and leave them. You know what? Something's telling me to look at Lulu real fast. Hold on. All right. Yeah, this thing is beat up too. I'll eventually take a look at this chart and consider a play. There's one last chart I want to look at, and then we're going to wrap this up. I got to find it here. All right, CRM. This is the last chart I want to look at. Okay. So, Sly, you aren't good. I'm super thrilled for you, and I hope you are making some serious cash flow on that one, man. All right, so Salesforce, I wanted to look at this chart just because we got rejected off of the 100. The 50 tried to curl above the 100. It didn't. It's coming back down through. We do have earnings coming up on August 20th. I'll probably have earnings preview on that one. What I'm watching is to see if we can come down and test those April 7th lows. And that wouldn't be a bad spot to consider along if we see some strength start to come in here to this chart. So, come down and then we see this turn up. Maybe we see the momentum on the MACD twist up or even on the RSI. But this one's intriguing. This one is beat up quite significantly if we look at how far it's dropped. So this chart does look interesting to me. I'm watching it. It's not ready yet, but it's on my radar. So, all right. So that is going to do it for the live stream for this week. I want to thank everybody for joining me. We'll be back again next weekend. with another live stream. I hope that you will join me then. I'll have the date published in advance so you guys can see that. Hop on. I'd be more than happy to look at some tickers for you. But like I said, I got this feeling that we are going to get a gap up. We'll see if that's going to happen. I appreciate your support of the channel, and I will see you back here next week, everyone. Thank you so much. Take care and have a great week. We'll see you, everyone.